Okay, it's been a little while, hasn't it? But there's a bit of a reason for that. One, life is just life, and so it is what it is. But with this channel, I mean, it's still the non-toxic Manchester United channel we all know and hopefully love. But I'm trying to dedicate myself more towards formats that I actually enjoy making because, I mean, I could talk about the games till the cows come home. I can do all of that stuff. But I want to focus on formats and videos that I personally would love to watch and enjoy. And this is kind of one of them because I've said many times before, I'm not a massive statistician. I'm not big on formations. I'm not big on, styles of play and the chess matches and stuff like that. I'm an aesthetic person. I like to watch the game and just give my opinion on it, and I want you to give your opinion on it as well, because the game is just a bunch of opinions, so we might as well share them. And right now, there is a big conversation obviously going around with Andre Onana. Is he the worst goalkeeper in Man United history? I don't like the kind of negativity that can bring, but there have been some interesting comparisons that have been made with current players and older players and stuff like that. And I want to go more into that, like the type of videos like, would this player fit in that team, or would this player get on with that one? And right now, there is a conversation to be had around Onana and around the goalkeepers that we've had before. So if you like this sort of video, first of all, drop a like on it. Let me know what you think in the comments about, I mean, you've seen the title, you know what it's about, but also, if you want me to do similar comparison videos and you think like this player versus that one would be kind of a good place to start, then let me know, because I'm definitely interested in doing a lot more of that. So we are going to start off with a very topical one, which is, in my opinion, the most kind of interesting one to debate in terms of goalkeepers, Andre Onana versus Fabien Barthez. Now, to start off, everyone has been bringing up loads of goalkeepers that they think Andre Onana is worse than, or who's the worst. Like, I'm trying to be fair in terms of how many games they played for Man United, the kind of similarities they have, some of the differences they have, the key ones anyway. And so I'm not going to entertain this idea that he's worse than Massimo Taibbi, who played 4 Premier League games, or Tim Howard, who had one half a season to really establish himself, or Roy Carroll in the same way, Ben Foster, who I think had like a handful as well, Thomas Kuszczak, who was obviously a bench goalkeeper. So I'm not going to do that. I do want to focus on 2 number ones who have very similar characteristics and who were bought for very similar reasons, and that is Fabien Barthez and Andre Onana. So to kick things off, I've got my notes here. I'm very organized and stuff, and if this is new to you, by the way, I don't edit any of these because I don't want to, I can't be bothered to, and also it just keeps it quite open and honest with you, because I'm just looking at my notes here and I've got 0 stats in front of me. I'll be honest, I just want to kind of talk about the context, the cultures, and the sort of differences and similarities that I find. If you disagree with them, that's what the comments are for. But the discourse has been pretty ridiculous, and I would always say that if we're going to compare 2 types of players, they need to at least be a similar archetype of player. And really, if you think back to it, Fabien Barthez looks to be a bit of a predecessor to Onana, because now there's this whole thing about goalkeepers having to be good with their feet, having to be good at distributing the ball, and all this other stuff. That's a prerequisite now, but it wasn't back in those days. I mean, Barthez came at the turn of the millennium, 2000, and it was like, well, it wasn't really that common for goalkeepers to be good with their feet. If anything, just be good with your hands, kick it upfield, and give it to the players who are good with their feet. That's how it was, and you can tell by the style of goalkeeping, but also who the goalkeepers were that were dominating that era. You think of Gianluigi Buffon, you think of Edwin van der Sar, or even sort of the run-of-the-mill goalkeepers in the Premier League. Like, I think it was a bit early for Shay Given, but I remember Nigel Martin. I remember like Jens Lehmann, David Seaman, and Carlo Cudicini, who came a couple of years after that. Like, they were good shot stoppers and great reflexologists, and that was kind of the point about being, a goalkeeper. I just said reflexology, and that's not even the right word, but we're keeping it in there because I don't care. And like, I want to talk about the context between either of these goalkeepers coming in, because Barthez coming to United, he was replacing Peter Schmeichel. And there's the running story now that apparently Peter Schmeichel spent a bit of time away at Sporting and was thinking about coming back to the Premier League. And he asked, if he could come back to Man United. And there was a bit of an agreement there with Sir Alex, but then the phone lines went dead and we went and signed Barthez. That's how Peter Schmeichel describes it. And knowing Sir Alex, that's probably how it went. So we went for Fabien Barthez, who had established himself as a very strong goalkeeper at the time. I mean, I'm trying to just get his age now. So it was 1971, he came in 2000, so he was 29, 30 years old when he came in, actually. And while I'm with you, I'm going to see how old Andre Onana is now. And Andre Onana he is 29 years old. Oh, this is a fantastic comparison then. I actually thought Onana was a bit younger than that. So they come around the same age, but one's replacing arguably the greatest goalkeeper of all time, right? Because, the things he did with Denmark, Manchester United, and he came just before the Premier League, and he, oversaw our most successful thing that we'd ever done in 99, and without him it wouldn't have happened. So he's there replacing a legend. And I mean, obviously things have changed since then, but you're definitely replacing a club legend in David De Gea as well with Onana. So they both come in under the scrutiny that if they don't do well, everyone's going to remind them of the player that they are replacing. Like right now, everyone's saying bring De Gea back, which I disagree with. I mean, you don't go back to your ex, right? But also, if there is a player who has been left out of football for a year and a half, like there's all these intangibles that come into it. Like, did that spur him on to be as good as he has been for Fiorentina? And could we really make up for the lack of things that he had in the modern Premier League era? I don't think so. I mean, De Gea is a better goalkeeper in terms of the fundamentals, which we'll get to, but there were these perceptions that Onana being a Champions League finalist and being progressive and being, a man for the big stage, a man who's great distributing out from the back, good at claiming his area. He had a couple of clangers in him, but so did De Gea. It's like, could we forgive some of that if he brought in some of the things that would take us to a modern era of football? And Barthez was a bit different. I mean, we weren't really asking for that at the time. At least, I was 3 or 4 years old by the time Barthez was there. He was the first goalkeeper I remember, and he was there for 4 years. So my formative years, sort of watching Man United, I grew up watching a goalkeeper like that. So I just knew that looking back at it anyway, that he was a World Cup winner, that he had established good partnerships and good levels of understanding with some key players there. I mean, he played for Marseille, he played for Monaco. People talk about his kissing the head ritual with Laurent Blanc. He was a very well-known goalkeeper, and he probably deserved a chance at a place like Manchester United. So let's just get into the reason why I want to have this debate, because both teams that they came into were in relative states of crisis. I mean, I would kill to have the crisis we used to have in the early 2000s, but it was. And, we needed stability in goal. Realistically, neither of them provided the level of stability that has come to be synonymous with the success of any great club, having a calm, level-headed goalkeeper. Maybe Oliver Kahn, you would say, is the outlier. Maybe like a Rogerio Ceni, a Chilavert, or even a Dida. Maybe they are the outliers, but in general, the Manuel Neuers, the Gigi Buffons, the Petr Cechs, the Edwin van der Sars, the Peter Schmeichels, there is that level of stability that they bring. But we're going to go through a couple of attributes that I think are key to being a goalkeeper. I love analysing goalkeeping. It's probably my favourite position, having played it when I was a kid for some reason, even though I'm only 5'10", 1 inch shorter than Barthez. But I'm going to go through each one and who I think comes out in top in either of these areas. So again, if you disagree, get it in the comments. But the first one is distribution. The main reason why we bought Andre Onana, and I'll be honest, this is probably the saddest thing. It's the most frustrating thing. I mean, the man can drill a pass. We know he's comfortable on the ball, and he can definitely spray it if he wants to, but it's only if he gets about 10 or 15 seconds on the ball. When he's had to play a quick pass, hasn't really come off that well. And honestly, if I'm going to go distribution, you have to just talk about not only your kicking, but also long kicking, but your short passing and your throwing. I don't think Onana's very good at throwing the ball out. I don't think he's very good at sensing an opportunity or sensing when it's really time to get the ball moving. And again, it's difficult because, he's in a different system, different era. Maybe he's asked to keep the ball longer, and I can appreciate that. But Barthez, I'm giving it to Barthez because his range of kicking and I think his long throws, probably one of the best long throwers I've ever seen. If you watch him back, I know that sounds crazy, but if you watch him back, I think he is one of the best. And that was similar to Schmeichel at the time, kind of what we were used to. So I'm just about going to edge it to Barthez. And the next part, calmness, again, I'm probably going to have to edge it to Barthez because I'm talking about calmness on the pitch. Now, Barthez was a cool customer. If anything, he might have been too cool sometimes. And he almost made the game a bit harder for himself. But I sense when Onana is stressed out. That's what I mean by this. I can sense when something might not be going right and it's very plausible that a mistake can come from it. I can't really sense that, or I couldn't really sense that with Barthez. Bearing in mind, I've been wanting to do this video a while, and it's only after this latest, clanger from Onana that it's really time to do it. But I've been watching a lot of Barthez just to see, because your head can be driven by nostalgia as to say someone's good or not. And you can almost look at just mistakes or just great moments, and it can cloud your overall judgment. But I've watched a lot of him in the recent few days, so he's fresh on my mind. And there was a calmness to him. And, it might have got the crowd up, it might have riled up the opponents, but that's what he did. And on the pitch, I would say that he was calmer. Off the pitch, I would say after yesterday, I want to give it to Barthez again, but I think yesterday was the only time that I'd really seen Onana, clap back at someone on social media or in the press. I liked it when he did it at the time. I thought, if you back it up, it is what it is. But, in general, I want my players to do their talking on the pitch. If someone's going to talk about you, do what Bruno Fernandes does and talk with respect and let your football do the talking for you. Onana didn't do that. If anything, he riled up an already hostile atmosphere, and even towards the end, he's there goading the opposition just to make another mistake again. People don't think it's a mistake, but I do, and we'll come on to the reason why. And yeah, it isn't good enough. I would probably just say, because of modern football, because of the amount of times you've had to listen to Onana and how calm he usually is and the amount of responsibility he does take, I'll probably edge it to him. But Barthez, rarely did interviews and he rarely did any of that stuff. And when he did, there was always something weird to say. So I think he'd probably be more clippable than Onana, and I think he might get himself into more trouble than Onana. And off the pitch, we know he was a smoker. We know he was a bit, massively eccentric. So I'm going to edge it to Onana based off of that. Aerial presence is the next one. And to think I'm going to go for the goalkeeper that's 4 inches shorter is a bit crazy, but I am going to do that. Because Barthez, sometimes he would come for the ball and not get it. We know this. But he commanded his area better than most goalkeepers that I've ever seen. And I want to take that with a bit of a pinch of salt, because he commanded his area very well, but he commanded every inch of it when he didn't necessarily have to. You didn't have to come out to the edge of the box every time. You didn't have to go to the opponent's feet constantly, or even when the ball's like an indirect free kick, you didn't have to claim all of them. But that's the kind of goalkeeper he was. And regularly, more often than not, he would claim it. He would give himself to the situation and he would claim that ball. And of course, there were high-profile mistakes that he did make. I remember one against Liverpool where I think Heskey nodded it to Owen. I think that was at Anfield as well. So, he did make some mistakes doing that. But now we're in an era where the goalkeeper has to just kind of stand their ground. And similarly with both eras, if the goalkeeper goes down or feels a challenge and goes off of it, you're probably going to get a free kick. So I can't understand, unless it's just to deal with confidence, but I don't understand why goalkeepers now aren't giving themselves to that situation more. Because again, like I say, if you come out for the ball and you get clattered, go down, you're going to get a free kick. Even if you make a mistake, go and get yourself clattered, you're going to get a free kick. Do you know what I mean? I don't like the timid nature that I've been seeing from Onana, frankly. He flaps at the ball. He's usually going through his own player, and there's been times when he's been let off with it. So I'm going to have to give that to Barthez. And one of the key reasons for it as well is in this VAR era, would Barthez have gotten away with some of the things he did? I still think he would have done, because I don't think he went above the grounds, the laws of the game in order to do stuff, and that things would just get caught out. I think he was just that kind of guy, and he had the confidence to do it. And really, if you are a defender, and this is before Barthez started making a few high-profile mistakes, which he did maybe for half a season in his second season, and then the second half of the season in his last one, but he still won 2 Premier League titles. But those were the two where I remember, you remember the game against Arsenal, you remember the game against Real Madrid where, he made a lot of mistakes, and sometimes there was some, hairy moments in there as well. But for the most part, you could still trust that if someone was through one-on-one, or if you had to, have a last-minute kind of free kick or last-minute scenario in order to, deal with, you could probably back him to do that. And, how many games can you say that he threw away when the game was not going there? few, but Onana's definitely had more. So in terms of the command of the area and organising your defence even, and your aerial presence, I'm giving it to Barthez. And I would say these two go hand in hand, but shot stopping, as you can tell, I'm already given to Barthez. And this is going to sound very Barthez heavy, but this part is why I wanted to make the video, because I made a video on it yesterday on TikTok and Instagram. Obviously, links in the description if you want to check it out. But it's the fundamentals of goalkeeping that Onana has shocked me with, to be honest, because when you are diving for the ball, you're supposed to be at full stretch. You're supposed to plant your feet, get on the balls of your feet, and be nimble and light on them. So don't plant your feet, do the opposite. And then let that propel you to where the ball is going and let your whole body stretch out towards that way. You don't see Onana doing that. You do not see Onana having the agility to get down quick enough or to extend himself high enough in order to get places. You kind of just assume that if the ball is somewhat near the corner or the ball is somewhat near the edge of near the post, that Onana's not going to get there. And there's no reason for him not to get there. That is your domain as a goalkeeper. And you have to kind of take whatever physical flaws you may have and then bring the best out of them. And that's what Barthez was brilliant at doing. Like I say, a sub 6 foot goalkeeper doesn't usually work, but Barthez worked. Because I can pick out a number of high-profile saves that he's made where you don't expect a goalkeeper to make that save. I can't think of many with Onana that I didn't expect him to make. I could think of a couple, maybe a double save I know he made this season. That was good. And he actually had a really good start to the first half of this season. But when the going gets tough, he's some of the reason for why it got tough in the first place. But the fundamentals, like I'm talking about, when you are claiming your area, when you are claiming the ball out the air, when you're distributing and just setting yourself up properly. Because Barthez knew that he was going to look small in goal, but because he was a small guy. But in terms of shifting your angles and making your opponent make the decision that you want them to make, Barthez was better at that. Onana so often allows the attacker the privilege and the space and the time to make up their own mind. And it's the cardinal sin for a goalkeeper. You cannot do that. You have to make up the opponent's mind for them. And honestly, if we're going to just wrap this whole video up and give a synopsis on it, Fabien Barthez versus Andre Onana, I honestly think that it is disrespectful to compare the two, because even when you take away the honours that they achieved during Manchester United, because they were completely different areas, one was still in contention to win the Premier League and did it twice. The other is nowhere near it, and we're not expecting them to be. But even when you take that away, Fabien Barthez was a trailblazing goalkeeper who did it when few other goalkeepers were doing that. And when you are that trailblazer, you're introducing things that people aren't used to. So you have to be exceptional at the other things. And he was far more exceptional at the other things that Onana can't do than Onana was with Barthez. So what I'm saying is both goalkeepers were inconsistent. Of course they were. But it wasn't an accepted fact, or it hadn't become an accepted fact that Onana has just going, what I'm trying to say, I'm getting tongue twisted, but what I'm trying to say is, with Onana, it's almost become an accepted fact that a mistake is coming. Whereas with Barthez, if it did happen, it still kind of came as a shock. And then when it got to the point that there were too many of them, then he was let go. And that's kind of the situation where we are with Andre Onana, because for me, I've said it before and I'll say it again, it comes down to the fundamentals of goalkeeping. Can you claim a cross? Can you claim your area? When someone enters your area, how do you actually respond to that situation? Do you respond almost annoyed and angry and you want to get the ball out there and claim it as yours, almost like someone's coming into your house? Or do you just accept that's there and then make it easy for the opponent to make up their own mind? Fabien Barthez, whichever way you want to look at it, yes, he had a lot of mistakes, as a Manchester United goalkeeper. None that were such a below par level of acceptable mistake. Barthez fumbled the ball against Henry. He looked like he was 3'2" when he played against Real Madrid. None of them were good enough. And really, it doesn't even come down to the fact it was against Henry or against R9 that they happened. If he did them against anyone, most players would be able to score from that era. But it's when I'm seeing a goalkeeper, instill such a lack of confidence within an already uncomfortable defense and an already uncomfortable situation at Manchester United, when you are then going out to the media, you're saying certain things, or you're projecting onto other people that you are the person who can deal with this sort of situation, when in reality, you're making the rest of the team accommodate for the things that you shouldn't be lacking. And Fabien Barthez, for me, I mean, there's a lot of nostalgia with it, but Fabien Barthez was a good goalkeeper who made mistakes. I'm yet to see enough from Andre Onana that says that he is good, or as good as a player like Fabien Barthez was. They've both become a meme. They've both made mistakes. They've both done all that stuff. But when you really get down to the crux of what you want from your goalkeeper and what they're able to provide for you, I just think of one simple question. Would I prefer Fabien Barthez in his prime now at Manchester United over Andre Onana? Even without the mistake of yesterday and letting that cloud my judgment, the genuine answer is yes. And that's hard to take, but that is the end of this video. And I have to say, I really enjoyed this video. Like, I do want to do a few more of these. I do want to kind of like waffle a bit less. I mean, I did this for 20 odd minutes, but let me know if you enjoyed it, because, I like these types of debates, because no one's really ever going to be right. Like, you can always say like one won this, one won that. Like, I don't want to bring honours into it. I want to go player for player. Who do you prefer? And it just says who you are as a football fan. And I think that's really interesting to hear those types of takes. So, this was my 2 pence on Onana. You kind of heard how I feel about him in general throughout the video. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, subscribe if you're new. We'd love to hit like 5,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers. So if you can, share this around with anyone that you think might have a different opinion, that'd be great as well. But yeah. Thank you all so much for watching this. I can't say when the next video is going to be, because like I say, I mean, I can do, reactions to different like games, but I just find them tiresome. I just find them a bit annoying, and I'll jump on other channels to do that where, I feel like I can provide a bit of value in there. But to have a single video of just myself doing it, I don't know what I'd be able to give away from the other channels. So I'd rather, like add my 2 pence over there where I can. So check me out when you do see that. Let me know what you think on those. But this channel for me, where I want to talk, are on genuine points of debate and points of discussion that I find enjoyable. And this was one of them. I really enjoyed this one. So let me know what you think in the comments below. But most importantly, who is the next player comparison? I've done Barthez versus Onana. Who's the next one? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you on the next one.